The Assassin. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest.
What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Well, before we get into things, I did just release a new promo video for my upcoming music video, Polititards. You could find that on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/KatieTropp, or my official website, katietropp.net. I am running for president in this next music video of mine, so you could check that out. And the music video actually drops this Sunday, so look out for it. So let's get into football and Monday Night Football and what happened between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. It went about as expected. I mean, it pretty much started out as a typical Pittsburgh Steelers game where it was just field goals, and more field goals, just boring us all to death. But then finally, the second half, the Steelers actually started to score. And then also the Giants actually started to score too. But of course, the Giants do what the Giants do. And they failed on their last drive. And TJ Watt, of course, had a game-winning forced fumble recovery sack to end the game, basically. So that's how it went. Russell Wilson's actually stepped right into the starting quarterback role and has been looking really solid for the Steelers so far. He went 20 for 28 with 278 yards and a touchdown. I will say the thing that's really opened things up with Russell Wilson at quarterback for the Steelers now is that he actually has a much better deep ball than Justin Fields did. And while I thought it was a stupid decision to switch, I mean, so far it's worked in the favor of the Steelers just because Russell Wilson has really stepped in and he's really looked pretty solid so far. But the Pittsburgh Steelers got the win 26-18, and no shock there just because the Giants are terrible. They played about as terrible as they usually do. The score is close, but it really was pretty much all Steelers all night. Now moving on to the top 10 NFL power rankings for this week. We do have us a new number one, and then a bit of movement between basically the same typical teams we've been talking about here for the last couple of weeks. But number one, brand new number one on the season for me, it is the Detroit Lions. They are 6-1 on the season, and for me, this is a team that dominates in all three phases of the game. They're great offensively, they're great defensively, and they're great now with the special teams. I mean, this last game that they won, it was basically just due to all the special teams dominance. And I mean, they've really looked solid. And even though Aiden Hutchinson, yes, he's going to be out for the entire season, like I keep saying, I don't think this is going to be a bad thing for them, meaning it doesn't take them out of Super Bowl contention. To me, they are the best team in the league right now. They're playing the best football right now. They're dominating, and they're just scoring a whole lot of points. And they're playing very smart football, and they look like a very well put together team. So I've got the Detroit Lions up at number one. Then at number two on my top 10 NFL power rankings of the Kansas City Chiefs. Overall record of 7-0. They did add DeAndre Hopkins while I was on vacation. They definitely needed some depth at the receiver position. Now, I don't know if this just, puts them head and shoulders above everybody else just because, you don't know how Hopkins is going to fit in with this offense. I don't doubt he's going to make some plays, but you never know what's going to happen. Just because you make a trade doesn't mean anything. But I feel like he's definitely going to add some depth for the Chiefs at the receiver position. And, I mean, the Chiefs are really dominating on the defensive side of the ball. And it's just weird because offensively, they're pretty bad. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is leading the league in interceptions. They're not doing well in the red zone like they normally do. And just offensively, they are stagnant. But defensively, they're really holding it down. And honestly, that's why they are still undefeated up to this point. Then at number three on my top 10 NFL power rankings, falling a couple of spots from the last time I did power rankings, is the Baltimore Ravens. Overall record of 5-3. Of course, they lost to the Browns this week. So that's definitely what drops them. But I still have no doubt in my mind that this team is one of the best teams in the league. They're great offensively. Lamar Jackson continues to have a phenomenal year. He's passed for 2,099 yards, 17 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. plus 501 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So the guy is having another MVP season. Derrick Henry also having an MVP season. He's got almost 1,000 yards on the ground, 946 yards, and 9 touchdowns on the season. So offensively, they look stout. They just traded for Deontay Johnson yesterday, wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. He actually most recently played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was a pretty solid receiver for them. So I feel like this definitely boosts them on the offensive side of the ball. And then, of course, defensively, they are solid like they always are. It's just they lost to the Browns, and it's a division opponent, so I'm not shocked that they lost to the Browns. But, you know, when you have 3 losses and the other 2 teams, because I'm still not convinced on the Kansas City Chiefs. They may be undefeated, but I just don't look at them as being the best team in the league for some reason. And obviously we'll see what happens come Super Bowl time. But, I mean, even against the Ravens, I still would not be shocked if the Ravens, if they faced off against each other in the playoffs, if the Ravens got the better of them this time around. Then at number 4 in my top 10 NFL power rankings of the Houston Texans, overall record of 6-2. Unfortunately, they did lose Stephon Diggs, their wide receiver, to a torn ACL in the last game, so he's going to be out for the rest of the season, which really takes a shot at this offense, just because he's been a huge part of it. But he wasn't there last year, and then you still have Joe Mixon, who really I feel like is the big difference for this offense. Their offensive line has had their struggles, but defensively, they are one of the top teams in the league with sacks. They are just getting at the quarterback, and they just look like a really solid, well-put-together team. It's just that Stephon Diggs injury. We'll see how bad that hampers the offense. But, I mean, overall, I don't think that's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to them, just because they do have depth at the receiver position. And, they, like I said, Joe Mixon, he's been going off when he's in the game. Then at number 5 on my top 10 NFL power rankings are the Buffalo Bills. Overall record of 6-2. This team has become more balanced since they traded for Amari Cooper a couple weeks ago at the wide receiver position. He's really starting to fit in. He's also taken some pressure off of the other receivers, like Keon Coleman. This guy has been lights out basically since the trade for Amari. Josh Allen having a phenomenal year, only 1 interception on the season. And then, of course, Cook, he's at the running back position. He's also become a really good addition to this offense, just to make it more balanced and not put so much pressure on Josh Allen at times. And then, of course, the defense. I wouldn't call them a lights-out defense, but they still get the job done, and they still step it up when they need to. So I've got the Bills at 5. Then at number 6 on my top 10 NFL power rankings of the Green Bay Packers, overall record of 6-2. Offensively and defensively, this is one of the best teams in the league. They are the top scoring offense in the league, and they are one of the top defenses when it comes to turnovers in the league. So they're really setting their offense up in great position with these turnovers, and then they're just taking advantage and scoring. And even with the injuries to Jordan Love that he suffered throughout the season, they're still able to overcome that, which just shows what a good team they are. And then, of course, McKinney, their safety, he actually leads the league in interceptions with 6 interceptions on the season. So this team is they're getting turnovers and they're getting touchdowns, and they are a well-balanced team as well. And they also seem to be getting stronger as the season wears on. Then at number 7 on my top 10 NFL power rankings of the Minnesota Vikings, overall record of 5-2. Now they've lost 2 straight. They still look like a good team, and I didn't expect them to go undefeated. But these last couple of games, they just haven't looked like they started off the season. But still looking really good offensively. Jefferson is one of the top receivers in the league, especially stat-wise as well. And then defensively, probably the top defense in the league. They're getting tons of turnovers, getting tons of sacks, and still a really solid team. It's just I didn't really believe in them to begin with. And now I kind of feel like the true Vikings are starting to show now. Then at number 8 on my top 10 NFL power rankings of the Washington Commanders, overall record of 6-2. I just continue to say it's all about Jaden Daniels. The guy is really holding it down on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, there are still questions with them, but I mean they're winning. They're 6-2, and there's really nothing else to say. And they're winning in weird ways. I mean that walk-off win they had this past weekend with Daniels tossing up the touchdown. Big win for them right there, and they just keep winning, and they just keep getting better as the season wears on. Then at number 9 on my Tropp 10 NFL Power Rankings at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Overall record of 6-2. It is all about this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, most notably T.J. Watt, who's got 4 forced fumbles on the season and 6.5 sacks. So he is well on his way to potentially another Defensive Player of the Year award. And he's obviously the deciding factor for this team. When he is on, this team is on. He just changes the trajectory of every single game, and you just always have to be aware of everywhere he's at. And defensively, this is just a great team. It's just their offense I've had many, many questions about, even though they're 6-2. But Russell Wilson, he stepped right in. Looks pretty solid, but we'll see how things progress as the season wears on. And then rounding out the Tropp 10 NFL Power Rankings this week, I have the Atlanta Falcons. Overall record of 5-3. Kirk Cousins is actually having a really solid year. He's got 2,106 yards passing, 14 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So he's pretty much doing what Kirk Cousins do, tossing the ball all over the place, but still has the stupid interceptions at times. But, I mean, so far, this Falcons team, they keep winning. They're in a pretty, I would say, weak division. I feel like their only other competition right now in their division would be the Buccaneers, who are going through some injury issues. So the Falcons looking pretty solid. And if they just keep it up at the pace they're at, they should probably win this division pretty easily. Then moving on to Thursday Night Football, we have the Houston Texans at the New York Jets. It's a pretty close spread this week. Right now, the Texans are only a half-point favorite over the Jets, which is really odd because the Jets are just terrible. They have not found an identity. They don't look good. And even though Houston, they've had their moments where you're like, what's going on here? They also lost Stephon Diggs. So, I mean, that throws up questions about what's going to happen with this offense. But they at least have an identity. They at least have some swagger. They at least look like they have a put-together team, whereas the Jets are just in complete disarray in all different ways. So I do think it's going to be a close game. I do think it's going to be a good game. But I think, of course, the Houston Texans are going to get the better of the Jets in the end, just because I think their defense is better. I feel like they probably are going to force a turnover or two or just make it life really difficult for Aaron Rodgers, as they've been doing for all opposing quarterbacks this season. And I just feel like the Houston Texans offense is going to be able to do just enough to get this win. And so I have the Texans winning 24-20. Now let's move on to college football and the AP Top 12 rankings this week. And, not a lot has changed from last week. We have had a lot of movement, and it is crazy to see what's going on in the SEC. They're all basically cannibalizing each other right now, as we kind of expected, because they're all really good teams. But it is going to be interesting just to see how the rest of the season plays out. A lot of them are still in play for the college football playoff, and we only have about a month left of college football, which is crazy to think. But we are right around the corner, basically, from college football playoff. So we are basically in the home stretch of things. So the wins, you got to keep getting the wins, and the losses are definitely going to be mattering here pretty soon. So let's start off with number 1 remains this week, the Oregon Ducks. They are 8-0 on the season. They remain one of the few undefeated, really solid teams. They started off the season very quiet, didn't look like they were going to be good at all, but here they are, 8-0. They took out Illinois last week, 38-9, and this week they will be at Michigan. And this seems to be, if you look at their schedule, this is probably Oregon's last real test. Last real test for the season. And of course, you could always lose any given Saturday in this example, but it kind of looks like Michigan's the only real legitimate team they could lose to. So if they get past Michigan this week, I would not be shocked to see Oregon just keep winning and finish the regular season undefeated. Then at number 2, we have the Georgia Bulldogs. They are 6-1 on the season. They just had a bye week this week, and they, of course, obliterated my Texas Longhorns 30-15 a couple weeks ago. They will be playing Florida this weekend. Then number 3 is Penn State. They are 7-0. They also had a bye this week. They took out Wisconsin 28-13. They will be playing Ohio State this weekend, who's ranked number 4. Since we're talking about 3, we'll be talking about 4 here, Ohio State. They're 6-1 on the season. So we've got a big game between Ohio State and Penn State this weekend. So one of these teams is definitely going to be falling out of probably the top 5 if they suffer a loss. But let's say Penn State gets the win. Do not be shocked if you see Penn State move up to number 2, potentially even number 1. I don't know about that, but we'll see. But Ohio State, if they get the win, which they definitely need it more since they're 6-1 on the season, we'll see what happens. But it's definitely a big game. Then at number 5, we have Miami, the U. They moved up a spot. They're 8-0 on the season. They took out Florida State 36-14. They will be playing against Duke this weekend. Number 6, my Texas Longhorns fell another spot. They are 7-1 on the season. They just got by Vanderbilt 27-24 over the weekend. They do have a bye this week, and they will be playing Florida next week. Then at number 7, we have Tennessee. They are 6-1 on the season. They just beat Alabama 24-17. They will be playing Kentucky this weekend. Then at number 8, we have Notre Dame. They just moved up 4 spots. They're 7-1 on the season, and they smashed Navy 51-14. They are on a bye this week, and they will be playing Florida State next week. Then at number 9, we have BYU. They moved up a couple of spots. They're 8-0 on the season, and they just took out UCF 37-24. They are on a bye, and they will be at Utah next week. Then at number 10, we have Texas A&M, who's moved up 4 spots. They are 7-1 on the season, and they took out LSU. Got a big win this weekend, 38-23, and they will be at South Carolina this weekend. Then we have 2 teams tied at 11. First being the Clemson Tigers. They bumped down a couple of spots. They're 6-1 on the season. They just took out Virginia 48-31. They will be playing Louisville this weekend, and also tied at 11, Iowa State. They just knocked down a spot. They're 7-0 on the season. They took out UCF 38-35, and they will be playing against Texas Tech this weekend. So that is how the AP Top 12 is looking right now. Moving on to the World Series, we had us a couple games these last couple of nights. Game 3 of the World Series was dominated by the Dodgers. They got the win 4-2. It was pretty much 4-0 for the most part. Freddie Freeman had his 5th straight World Series game with a home run, which is a record. And spoiler alert, in Game 4, he hit home run number 6, which is once again a record. The guy just cannot be stopped. He is fantastic during the postseason, but most certainly he's proving that he is one of the top players to ever play this game. So the Dodgers took Game 3. So Game 4 last night was a must-win for the Yankees, and that is exactly what they did. They finally got their bats going, and they finally had a legit game. Volpe, he had his Yankees moment. He came up to bat. He was who really cracked this open. He hit a grand slam, and it just was really all Yankees after that. Then in the 8th inning, they were able to get about, I think, 5-6 more runs at that point, and then they really just ran away with it, and the Yankees got the win 11-4. So Game 5 is tonight in New York. The Dodgers are up 3-1. No team in World Series history has ever come back from being down 3-0. As a matter of fact, this is only the 4th time in the history of the World Series where a team that's gone down 3-0 that's even pushed it to a Game 5. So if the Yankees win tonight, we'll see something that we've never seen before. And if the Yankees are able to just win this series in general, that's absolutely something we've never seen before. But the Yankees got it going last night. Now I see some confidence in them. Cole pitches tonight, which is exactly what they need. So we'll see where we're at on Friday's show if we have us a World Series champion, which would be the Dodgers, or if the Yankees were able to push it to the brink and take it back to L.A. So we'll see what happens tonight. Like I said, Dodgers up 3-1. It's all on the Yankees right now. But that confidence booster last night I think is big, and I think it's also big that they have Cole pitching tonight as well. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of the week of sports, and I will talk to you fools on Friday.